Good afternoon. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Kevin from the Center for Responsible Tourism Singapore. Hi, good evening, and podcast number 41. I didn't really thought 3 years ago or 2.5 years ago. I actually started podcasting somewhere during the pandemic, and I probably would have not imagined that I will reach podcast number 41. Today's topic is a little bit different. I'm sorry, I promised that I will speak a little bit more about travel agents and regenerative travel. But today I decided to talk about something which I believe would be or could be a possible training topic for me in front of travel agents next year in 2024. And the topic of today's podcast is, what does the sustainability manager of a tour operator or a travel agency actually does? In Singapore, there are probably now around 700 to 800 travel agents left. When I say left because we used to have a little more than 1,000. And you can probably guess what the pandemic did to some of them. And I was told that around 30% of the 1,000 plus travel agents had to close. Now, we don't have, I believe I can say to a very high surety, that we don't have any travel agents here with a sustainability manager. Maybe one or two, and this one or two I say without much of a confidence. So that's why I was telling you that we probably do not have yet any travel agents or tour operators with a sustainability manager. It is a fairly new concept, interestingly. And I say that with a little bit of regret, that sustainability is still a fairly new concept to many travel agents and tour companies here. And maybe fast forward in the next 4 or 5 years, there could be some, or at least a handful, who will have a sustainability manager. Sustainability, or the idea of having socio-culturally positive practices, environmentally positive practices in a travel agent or tour operator's business or operations is a fairly new concept. What does a sustainability manager do in the context of travel intermediaries? For a tour operator and a travel agency, what does this person in the operations do? What does this person in the company do? A sustainability manager has a few main responsibilities. One is to ensure that the travel product, whether it's a transport product, whether it's a cultural tour, whether it's a heritage trail, whether it's a package tour, one of the main responsibilities is to ensure that inside this tourism product there are as many possible elements or aspects of sustainability practices as possible. The sustainability manager of a travel agency or a tour operator, one of the things that this person will be doing or has to do is to work with suppliers to make sure that from accommodation to transportation to food and beverage, there are evidences, there are aspects of sustainability embedded in all these suppliers. to make sure that when it comes to transport, for example, that we are using environmentally friendly coaches or buses, that we are using electricity or electric vehicles as much as possible. And in terms of accommodation, that we are doing business with hotels that are eco-friendly, hotels that have sustainability certification. We are putting our passengers or our customers in accommodation that are eco-certified. That in our travel itineraries and in our tourism product, we work with companies that have carbon emissions tracking. We research and learn about the issues and the challenges that local communities in places are experiencing or are facing. And we have ideas or solutions in the operations to be able to assist local communities in some of the places that our travel products or itineraries bring people to. So there's a lot of things travel agents and tour operators do when it comes to sustainability practices. A sustainability manager is not the only one in the company thinking about sustainability practices. He or she should not be the only one, because if it's everybody's responsibility, as someone once said, then it usually will become nobody's responsibility. But this person is the central person. This person is the one who bounces off ideas and who is the one that people bounce off ideas from or with. He is the one who coordinates. He is the one who will work with everybody in the company. He is the one who, at the end of the day, probably will have to answer and who represents the firm or the business when it comes to sustainability practices. This person should also be able to creatively fine-tune and explore new sustainability practices. This person, for example, should be able to make small improvements, fine-tune the sustainability practices that the company starts off with. As time goes by, a lot of sustainability practices will and should be made better. Things will be able to be done more affordably and with greater impact. There will be innovations around sustainability, and that is another responsibility of this person called the sustainability manager. Sustainability practices can also sometimes become a new product for the company, and this person will be able and should be able to recognize or see opportunities from sustainability practices. And so, my hope, my desire, and my belief is that this country, which currently looks like there is no travel company with this role called the sustainability manager, fast forward in the next few years, in the next 4 or 5 years, there surely, hopefully, and I believe quite firmly that there will be at least a dozen travel companies who will have such a person, and there will be some travel companies who potentially will also be thinking about having such a role in their operations. Again, I share with you that this podcast, I didn't do much preparation. The idea was somehow in my head for the last 1-2 days. I don't have a script to read from. It's done like this. And this is podcast 41. And I've just hit 10 minutes, 4 seconds. Have a lovely Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you have learned something. Bye-bye.